Did you know that this year we have 3 different discipleship trips happening within our student ministries? We have a junior high group heading to Calgary, a senior high team going to Toronto, and a group of young adults that are going to Beardy's First Nation Reserve. We're excited about these different trips, and we'd love for you to help out. So we have a fundraiser happening. Actually, just give me a second. So, we are having a black tie fundraiser event in support of all 3 of these trips. It's happening on April 8th. Tickets are only $10. It's gonna be great. There's gonna be live music, great food. We'd love to see you there. Come support our students.
The Mum Spring event is here, and we're shaking things up. Tuesday, April 25th from 7 to 9 p.m. is our very first Lakeview Ladies Trivia Night. Everyone is welcome, ladies who call Lakeview home and even those who don't. You can come on your own and join a table, or bring a bunch of trivia buffs with you to kind of throw the game. I didn't say that. Plus, there'll be lots of time to visit, tons of yummy desserts, and drinks available from the cafe. You're gonna learn new facts, bond with people you don't know over useless, obscure interests, and bask in the glory of knowing tidbits of information. So join us Tuesday, April 25th from 7 to 9 p.m. here at Lakeview. Tickets are $10 for sale at the office or at the newsstand.
Are you interested in finding your place at Lakeview? Then Lakeview 201 is for you. This class unpacks the mission imposters at Lakeview and helps you discover your gifts and opportunities for service. Class will be offered April 23rd, 30th, and May 7th during the 11 a.m. service. For more information or to sign up, visit me at the newsstand or email me at allison@lakeviewchurch.com.
Mother's Day is May the 14th, and so is our baby dedications and baptisms. We have an information night and potluck supper at 6 p.m. on May the 2nd. Spaces are limited, so if you want to sign up, come and see me at the newsstand or email me at nancy@lakeviewchurch.com.
Hi, I'm Chad from Arlington Beach Camp, and I'm just here to let you know that registrations are now open for all of our summer camp programs. Family camp this year will run from July 9th to July 17th. Our squirt camps are for ages 5 to 7. Junior camps for age 8 to 11, and young teen camps are for age 12 to 14. Arlington Beach is a ministry of the Free Methodist Church in Canada. That makes it your camp. If you've been to camp before, you know exactly how awesome it can be. If you haven't been, you should come. After all, as anyone can tell you, life is better at the beach. Check us out at arlingtonbeachcamp.com.
Good Friday and Easter are just around the corner, and like we did at Christmas, we put together a Facebook invite that we'd love for you to share. Check it out.
So I wanted to tell you guys about something here this morning. I've got this reoccurring dream. I feel like I have it at least once a month. And it's a dream about a car that I used to own, but now I don't anymore. And in every single one of the dreams, I'm trying to get it back. And I want to show you a picture of the car right now, but just a little bit of a caveat. I know I'm in John Deere country here. I know everything is 4x4s and trucks and SUVs and whatnot, right? So we understand that. Just understand for the city dweller, understand this was over 25 years ago, but I want to show you a car that for some reason has lodged itself in my psyche. So I give to you this morning a 1981 Volt. Why are you laughing? Why are you laughing? It's what? Did you just say Pinto? Did you put Rabbit and Pinto in the same? The doors are here. There's doors here, exits. Make your way. Friends, this is a 1981 Volkswagen Rabbit GTI. Mine was not as pretty as this one, but it was black. And I had the top of the line model for that year. So what that meant was no power steering and no air conditioning and roll-up windows and a tan vinyl interior. which meant, woohoo, which meant freezing cold in the winter and third-degree burns in the summer. But it didn't matter, because I had the top-end trim package. It was black and chrome with this beautiful red stripe around it. And in the trunk, I had a huge subwoofer. Remember when that was the cool thing to do? This thing was so big that I only had room for two things in my trunk, the subwoofer and a baseball glove. Like, those are the only two things that would literally fit in there, but the thing would pound. It would pound, right? And it was super cool, and you felt like you were driving a go-kart, and I love this car. And I still have dreams about it, literal dreams, where I'm trying to find it. So sometimes on the days I have those dreams, I'll find myself on the internet going through Volkswagen forums, looking to find one of these cars, and there's guys who are finding them and fixing them, and they look beautiful. And then every once in a while, there's like an eBay link for one for sale. So I copy and paste it, and I email it to my wife with just a question mark in the subject line. And moments later, I get an email back just saying, no. And we've tried to have conversations, and they always go like this, but Sarah, it would be so cool. Imagine how cool it would be. And she says, we do not need a car that's $12,000 US, that's highly unsafe, highly unpractical. There's no way we should have a car like that. And I want to say, well, yeah, but come on. So I'm working on her a little bit. And maybe one day I'll have one again. But you might be wondering here, why did you give it away in the first place? What happened? Well, let me tell you the story. I gave it to my brother-in-law. Is my wife in the room right now? Maybe she's not. She maybe is. So this is between you and I, okay? So let's just make sure this doesn't go any further. So once upon a time, he's down on his luck. His car breaks down. He has no car. We have two cars, and we decide, you know what? We can make do on one car. So I'm going to give this car that I love to my brother-in-law. And I remember the day that I dropped it off, and we're sitting in the parking lot, and I'm sort of got my arm around it, and I'm giving him the keys, and I'm saying things like, you really got to baby it. Like you got to take care. There's no power steering, and you got to watch this fluid level, and it runs a little bit hot, and there's a little smell of gasoline in the cabin at all times, so maybe have your window cranked a little bit. Be careful with the pedal. Just be careful, be careful, be careful. And he's like, yeah, Joe, yeah. So long story short, the car is no longer with us, and I don't want to talk about it. But here's the thing. As frivolous as that sounds, for some ridiculous reason, the thought, the image, the experience of this car has etched its way into my mind and heart, so much so that I'm dreaming about it once a month. So I've lost something that I have loved, I had it, and now it's gone, and I can't get it back. And that's precisely where Leviticus 25 is going to take us this morning. This morning we're going to talk about love and loss. We're going to talk about landlords and tenants. And I want to talk a little bit about what it means to rest when all you want to do is recover what you've lost. So with that, I'm going to read just a few verses of Leviticus 25, not the whole chapter. And in the preceding verses to what we're about to read, God lays down some rules about Sabbath, about you taking a break, about your land taking a break once every 7 years. And every 50 years, there's this thing called Jubilee that we're going to talk about how everyone takes a break and everything sort of gets reset. And then God gives some parameters of how to live well within those means. So with that in mind, let's hop in. Leviticus 25, it rolls like this. Keep my decrees and observe my laws, and you will live secure in the land. The land will yield its fruit, and you will have all you can eat and will live safe and secure. Do I hear you ask, well, what are we going to eat in the 7th year if we don't plant or harvest? And I assure you, I will send such a blessing in the 6th year that the land will yield enough for 3 years. And while you plant in the 8th year, you will eat from the old crop and continue until the harvest of the 9th year comes in. And the land cannot be sold permanently because the land is mine and you are foreigners. You're my tenants. You must provide for the right of redemption for any of the land that you own. We'll explain that in a second. If one of your brothers becomes poor and has to sell any of his land, his nearest relative is to come and buy back what his brother sold. If a man has no one to redeem it, but he later prospers and earns enough for its redemption, He is to calculate the value since he sold it and refund the balance to the man to whom he sold it. And he can then go back and own his land. If he doesn't get together enough money to repay him, what he sold remains in the possession of the buyer until the year of Jubilee. In the Jubilee, it will be returned and he can go back and live on his land. So a little bit of the backstory here. Every Israelite clan is assigned a plot of land which will be theirs forever. It will remain under their care. And by this land, they're going to food and clothe and shelter their families. But their lives, like our lives, well, stuff happens, right? Not everything goes exactly to plan, and things go off the rails. So there could have been a situation where one of these people would have gone into such great a debt that they wouldn't be able to pay back what they owe. How would they get into debt? Well, in that time, it's different than us. We get into debt when we buy things like, VCRs or laser discs or 1981 VW Rabbit GTIs, not Pintos. GTIs, not Pintos, all right? No, they would get into debt because they would buy farming equipment, because they had to buy seeds, they had to get animals, they had to pay people to help run the land. So if they made less than what they spent, then they would be in debt. And if they could not service that debt, one of the things that they could do was sell the land. But if things got so terrible and so bad, there was another thing that they could do. If they couldn't pay off all their debts by selling off the land, well, then they could sell themselves into slavery. And you can see what kind of a bad scene that would be. Again, remembering that in this society, your name, your land, everything about you is tied to this place. And if you lose that, and dad sells himself into slavery, and you're drowning in debt, and then mom and some of the kids have to go live with one relative, and then there's not enough room there, so other kids have to live somewhere else, you can see how the family is split up and the damage it would do to these people. So what Leviticus does is provide a fail-safe, and it comes in two parts: redemption and jubilee. Redemption is this buyback clause, meaning that at any point in time, if you've lost your land and you've raised enough money, you can buy back your land. At what price? The price is always how many harvests are there still to come before Jubilee. So let's say everything goes down in flames in your life, 10 years before Jubilee. So you would pay the owner, the current owner, the value of 10 harvests. So let's say a harvest is worth $1,000. So you would owe him $10,000 to get that land back. If everything went down in flames for you in year 9, it'd be $9,000. 876, you understand, till the year before, it could be $1,000 to get your land back. That's the way the mathematics worked. That's redemption. At any time, you can buy it back. But then there's also Jubilee. And what's Jubilee? Jubilee, once every 50 years, is this colossal reset where every piece of land and property goes back to its original owner. And the reason why it's set up this way is to prevent the collapse of the economy, so that people aren't just drowning in debt. But beyond that, these two fail-safes are there. Why? Because we want to ensure that people don't live their whole lives in trouble and in pain. So Leviticus is essentially saying this: you don't need to be permanently disadvantaged because of some sort of misfortune, because of something that's been done to you, or perhaps something you have done. So Jubilee is saying to them, you can come home now. But here's the deal. The only way that this fail-safe can work is if everybody agrees on one thing. And the one thing that everybody has to agree on is this, is that everything and everyone belongs to God. God is the landlord and Israel is the tenant. So this land that you have, it does not belong to you really. It's actually only leased to you. It's a gift for you to use and to enjoy and to curate, but at the end of the day, you are simply holding it in trust. Now, put all those images together. You have people who are in slavery, people who are in debt. Talk about redemption, talk about reset, talk about working yourself to death. Grab all those pieces and hold them together. And what do we have? What we have there are the building blocks of Israel's founding memories. So you can trace back their story and you can see those pieces in play. And no other story more than the captivity in Egypt and the Exodus from Egypt. Because in Egypt, they were treated like machines. They had to work 7 days a week. And it was only by God's grace and his mercy that he redeemed them and brought them out and then brought them home. So then, maybe for us, we need some of those exact same reminders today. Consider this. To go to bed is to let go of the myth that everything depends on me. It is a daily practice of Sabbath keeping, the point of which is to rest in the sovereignty of God. Because above all, remember that the meaning of life is to live it as if it were a work of art. You are not a machine. This past Tuesday, as these thoughts are sort of trickling in the back of my mind, by 5 o'clock, I've got 93 unanswered emails just sitting in my email box, just grasping for my attention. And some of them are work-related, things that I have to do. Some of them are emails that I've sent myself for tasks and things I need to remember. And then there's another part that are just, I guess, inappropriate emails I just get from my friends, because apparently that's a thing that still happens. And the day is over, and we have dinner, and it's about 6 or 6:30, and I'm looking at my laptop, it's sitting there on the coffee table, and all of a sudden that voice starts up in my head saying, if you don't get at those 93 emails, that is going to mess up the rest of your week. How are you possibly going to meet anyone for a coffee and be all pastoral if you've got these things floating in the back of your mind? How are you ever going to prepare a sermon and then dazzle everybody on Sunday morning if you've got this work that's just biting at your heels? So I say to myself, I'll just answer a couple of them. So I sat down in my chair, and 6 o'clock turned to 7, and 7 to 8, and 8 to 9, and 9 to 10, and 10 to 10:30, and 10:30 to 11. And by 11 o'clock, I had answered 89 of the 93 emails. And by that point, I was so tired, I just shut the lid and said, I just can't do anymore. So I went to bed, and I lay down, and I just started staring at the ceiling, because the voice started up again. Those 4 emails, man. If you just did those 4 more, then you'd be done. You would have zeroed your inbox. That's on your bucket list, man. That's like a life goal for you. You can do this. And I'm sitting there, and then the verse that comes to my mind is actually part of Leviticus 25 that we didn't read this morning early on. It says something like, hey, you know when the land is resting on that 7th year, and the grapevines sort of grow up on their own without any of your attention, leave those vines unattended. And in my mind, I'm like, I cannot leave those 4 emails unattended. So in that moment, and if you're like me, it's in those times when you should be resting, that you're working, that you are actually selling yourself into slavery. And what it's saying is that everything depends on me. If I don't get the job done, and I don't get it done right, and I don't accomplish these tasks, and I'm not praised for what I do, then none of it is worth it. So when we allow ourselves to quietly submit to that way of thinking, we actually do become machines. When we live like that, we're slaves. When we live like that, we deny that everything and everyone belongs to God, and everything we have in life is merely on loan to us, in a trust. When we live like that and we trample over our Sabbath rest, what we're actually saying is this: God, I don't trust you. I don't trust you to look after things while I sleep. So I'm going to stay awake as long as I possibly can, and I'm going to do your job for you. When we live like that, we give in to this lie, where our value, how God sees us, is only based on our best or on our worst. If I can accomplish the 93 emails, God must be proud of me because I've done my job. Or if I have failed today, or failed yesterday, or failed 10 years ago, it's only that failure that defines me. So friend, if you are caught in that game this morning, allow me to offer you some relief. And it's this: that Christianity has never, ever been about merit. Instead, Christianity has always been about loyalty. Because here's the thing: God doesn't lose sleep over your failures. But at the exact same time, he is absolutely adamant that we remain loyal to him. How do we remain loyal to him? By taking care of one another and by looking after ourselves. So then the big questions that rise up out of Leviticus 25 for us this morning are questions like this. Maybe you need to ask God something. Say, God, will you kickstart my heart? And if you're wondering if that's a Motley Crue reference, it is. And if you don't know who Motley Crue is, it doesn't matter. You're missing absolutely nothing. But God, kickstart my heart. Remind me that everything in this world is from you. It belongs to you. It's just on lease to me. My brain, my house, my car, my family, my job, the air I breathe, everything I have is a gift from you that I am holding in trust. God, help me. Help me to handle those things appropriately. Or maybe what jumps out of the text for you this morning, maybe something that might rub you the wrong way, is how you might be repeatedly selling yourself into slavery. Whether it's with work or some other responsibility or some type of relationship, you are living like everything rises and falls on you. And you can't rest because it's all up to you to save the world. Or maybe the part this morning that bugs you the most, getting under your skin a little bit, is this idea of Sabbath, this idea of rest. Let me talk to the other workaholics in the room here. Do you ever stop? Does your brain ever turn off? Do you have an hour of the day, is it 4 o'clock, 5, 6, or 7, where you just stop? Stop working and let the email sit. Let the responsibilities just sit. Do you plow through your weekend, your Saturday and your Sunday? Do you have 24 hours to rest, to enjoy, to trust that God's going to look after the details? Or do you go, because for some reason, again, you feel like God can't be trusted to look after things in your absence? So maybe for us this morning, the big ask for God is this. We ask God, what needs to be reclaimed in my life? What needs to be set right? What needs to be bought back? What needs to be liberated? What needs to be redeemed? God, what needs to be returned to order in the way that I handle my life? Because all of that ties into God's big picture and our participation in it. So, I know that I've thrown a lot of pieces at you this morning. They're kind of floating all out there. What you're going to do now is grab a passage from the New Testament. It's going to be like glue, and it's going to stick all those pieces together. Watch for it. It's pretty great. Here it is. Remember the story? Jesus went to Nazareth. Nope. Jesus went to Nazareth where he had been brought up, and on the Sabbath day he went into the synagogue, as was his custom, and he stood up to read, and the scroll of the prophet Isaiah was handed to him. Unrolling it, he found the place where it is written, "The Spirit of the Lord is on me, because he has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim freedom for the prisoners and recovery of sight for the blind, to set the oppressed free, to proclaim the year of our Lord's favor." And then he rolled up the scroll and gave it back to the attendant and sat down. And the eyes of everyone in the synagogue were fastened on him. And he began by saying to them, "Today, this scripture is fulfilled in your hearing." And then shortly after, everybody got super mad at him. So that's how that story ends. But that's a bold move by Jesus. It's a bold claim to say that he is the fulfillment of everything the prophet Isaiah was talking about. Yet the curious thing is that Jesus doesn't quite accurately quote these two verses in Isaiah. He's very selective in his reading. And I want to compare those passages with you this morning because it's going somewhere here. So let's check them out. Let's put Luke and Isaiah together line by line. So, Luke, "The Spirit of the Lord is on me because he has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor." Isaiah, first line, "The Spirit of the Sovereign Lord is on me because the Lord has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor." Nice, 1 for 1, we're rolling. Let's go, line 2. "So he has sent me to proclaim freedom for the prisoners and recovery of sight for the blind, to set the oppressed free." Isaiah, "He has sent me to build up the brokenhearted, to proclaim freedom for the captives, and release from darkness for prisoners." So close, not right 100%, but it's in the ballpark, so Jesus will give you some creative liberty on that. Okay, number 3, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor, full stop. But Isaiah, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor and the day of vengeance of our God. And that's missing. And Jesus, I think you missed the last line. It seems a little bit important. Why did you drop that one? Now, hold on to that really quickly here. I want you to piece some of these things together. Because as Jesus borrows words from Isaiah, Isaiah is actually borrowing words and ideas from, you guessed it, Leviticus 25. Check it out. Leviticus 25:10 reads like this: consecrate the 50th year and proclaim liberty throughout the land to all its inhabitants. It shall be a jubilee for you. Each of you is to return to your family property and to your own clan. So what we see here is a common thread, a theme that is working its way through these passages. But not only is there a theme, but there is also a key word that has shown up in all three. And that key word may be different in your Bible. It could be free, it could be release, it could be liberty, but that exact same term, the exact same root word and meaning is present in all three of these passages. Yet the question still remains, well, what is the connection then here? And why does Jesus drop the vengeance of our God bit in his reading? I think it's this. I think he's trying to reveal something to his first audience and then to us. Remember, Jesus is borrowing words and ideas from Isaiah. Isaiah is borrowing words and ideas from Leviticus 25. And what is Leviticus 25 all about? It's about redemption, about rest, and about jubilee. So what Jesus is saying by dropping that last sentence is this. He is saying that I am the jubilee that is going to end all jubilees. I am the reset, the once and for all reset. I am your Redeemer who is going to buy you back. You can't earn it. There's nothing you can do to merit it. Why don't you sit back, allow your gardens to be unattended, and just watch. Watch me do it. So by skipping the day of vengeance language, Jesus is actually preparing his audience to somehow understand that through the mercy and mystery and miracle and magic of the cross, that the brokenness of this world, a brokenness that God cannot put up with, somehow it's all going to be fully absorbed in him. And remember what is in the mental DNA of these people. Every 50 years is a reset. And Jesus is saying, yeah, there's a reset every 50 years. Why? Because in about 50 years, you guys, everything goes sideways again. Things get broken and messed up. So you have to usher in a new year, a new time. But now Jesus says, I'm actually ushering in a whole new era of the Lord. A kingdom that cannot be stopped, one that will never end, one that cannot decay, one by which the gates of hell themselves and all their fury will not prevail. So if Jubilee in Leviticus is saying, like we said earlier, you can come home now, you can come home to your homestead, then the Jubilee in Jesus is that you can come home to me now. You can come home to who you really are. So then, live not in fear of mistakes, but in the knowledge that no mistake can hold a candle to the love that draws us home. Friends, this morning, Jesus, your Jubilee liberator, says, you can come home now. It's safe. You can be free. Free from what? Free from sin. Your broken parts, that part that's just got his thumb on your life, where maybe you messed up somewhere in the past and now you're living under the shadow of that. You don't have to live under the shadow of that anymore. You're free from your sin. And Jesus says that you're free. You're actually free from having to do your best all the time, because this isn't a performance-based model. You don't have to do things on your own. You're free of that. And Jesus says you are no longer captive to fear. So for those of you who are in the room this morning, who are afraid of something or someone, whether from your past or what might be coming in the future, Jesus says, you don't have to be afraid. I am your protector. I am your Redeemer. For those of you who are here this morning, who are captive to some sort of loss, whether it be a person or some sort of situation in your life, not stupid like a dumb car, but something that's ingrained itself in your mind and in your heart where you feel like you're trying to get that back. You're chasing it and you want it and you know it'll never come back again. I don't know how Jesus is going to do it, but he said that he's going to bind up the brokenhearted. And those who are captive to this loss, who have lost everything that is dear to them, he's going to make it up to you somehow. I don't know how he's going to do it, but he said he would, and I believe that. Or for those of you who are here this morning who are captive to some sort of illness, Jesus says, as he borrows from Isaiah, as Isaiah borrows from Leviticus, that Jesus will make you, or the one that you love, well again. He's going to hit the big reset. It's coming, and you will be made whole once more. Jesus says, I am redeeming you. I am restoring you to who I have created you to be, and nothing can stop it. I have inaugurated this new kingdom, this new era, and it will come into full completion when I come back again. And in the meantime, you and you and you and you and you and me, we can come home now. Come home, Jesus says. I want you with me.